Hi, welcome along to a brand new episode of the Recurring Revenue Rocks show. I'm Laura Jeffrey, great to have you here today. And I am so excited to welcome along Jo Naughton to the show today. We're going to be having a chat about her area of specialism, which is mind, body and soul alignment. Jo has been working in kind of like mindset specialism fields for the past 3 years as a coach, and it's just fascinating. I've always been fascinated listening to Jo's point of views on the world, business, how to do things in an aligned way. So Jo, it is absolutely lovely to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's lovely to be here. You know, you and I, we're always good at jumping straight into these interesting conversations, right? So I kind of know that whatever direction we end up going in, it's going to be brilliant.
Exactly. That's what I love too. It's like, I think what I've always really admired about your work is you're very true to following what feels good to you, you know, as well as like you're obviously you've got an academic background, haven't you? Because you were you were working your way up in the education field. You were a deputy head teacher at a really young age, I think. So it's kind of like you bring that side of like the education and that structure to what you do now. But you've also got, what I really love about your work is that you've got your own views on things, and you're very, like, the way I perceive your work is that you're very open to receiving guidance from your higher self in terms of how you deliver your work out. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Right. That is what I love so much actually about what I do, is that it's coming from kind of a really broader perspective. I've always been someone who's been very open to kind of anything and everything, very open to, to other people's beliefs, opinions that are very different to mine, as well as those that are the same. And I kind of like the idea that we can bring kind of everything together in a way that serves us. That's what alignment is all about. It's about being able to notice what serves us, what feels good, and also noticing within that what doesn't serve us and what doesn't necessarily feel good, what feels misaligned, but not seeing that as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Seeing that actually all as a gift and getting curious around it, because that gives us some kind of place to learn, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that I was coming initially from an education background as a teacher, then as a consultant in education, then coaching and mentoring teachers within schools all around the UK, and coming from that I suppose more of like a kind of scientific space of how the mind works, and and all of that sort of stuff, and then kind of led into training in things like neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive behavioral therapy, and so that I really did understand from kind of a mixture of neuroscience and also then a more, what's the term, a more kind of like open view of also mind, which is technically kind of within the same thing but different to specifically the brain and how the brain works. And what interestingly has ended up happening as I've then been leaning more into this over the last few years is that what initially started from a place of mind then actually led me into connecting to something higher and deeper, a place where I'd now refer to as soul, my soul self, my higher self. Some, other people might refer to it just as their intuition or their gut, something, just this inner wisdom, this inner knowing inside myself that I really connected to. And what was interesting there is that as then from the mind perspective and then kind of connecting to this soul perspective, what also then happened is I recognized myself connecting more to my body. And yes, my physical body, in terms of like, I was just getting called to kind of like, calls of guidance to move my body more and do more with my body, but also recognizing the power that my body has in terms of that's the place that is storing all of, it's where kind of the nervous system is responding and reacting to things that are happening. It's where all the feeling kind of vibrations and sensations are taking place. It's where that real kind of grounded energy can come. And it's also where, when we can live almost often a bit too much in our minds, as we all tend to do at different points, I know I certainly did, we almost stop paying attention to the signs in our bodies that actually show us whether we're in alignment or not, whether we feel good or not. And so that's where the kind of whole mind, body and soul thing really comes from is realigning all of those parts of ourselves and not simply relying on one, um, so that we can kind of live this beautiful human experience whilst also recognizing that we are not simply this human physical experience, that actually there is a higher, truer, deeper, wiser, whatever you want to refer to it as, part of ourselves that is always there, reminding us that everything's okay, which is sometimes just the thing we want to hear most, right? Everything's okay.
Yeah, and I think this is so important because the people who listen to the Recurring Revenue Rocks show, we've got kind of business owners who are coaches or specialists in their field. And I think this is something that it's so refreshing for me to hear your point of view on this, because I think for a long time, depending on who you follow online, we've been given this kind of rhetoric of kind of very kind of like, you must be everywhere all the time. All people need to see you on all platforms. You need to work, work, work. And I think because of this kind of this rhetoric going on, this culture, I think for me personally, I think you can almost start blocking out the gut feeling, or you can block out kind of like, but I don't think I want to do that. Those feelings, like that little voice saying, I don't want to do that. That sucks. I don't want to do that. And what you're saying there is, by listening to this kind of like this higher self or this intuition, you can actually become a more embodied version of yourself who is happier and more confident because you're listening to that voice.
Right, totally. That, the classic way that most of us have been conditioned, particularly, in the Western world, in that kind of hustle struggle mentality.
Hustle, that's the word, hustle.
around how life works and how it's meant to work and how we're meant to be and show up, right? If I think back to myself, working in schools as a teacher, I was very much like indoctrinated into that energy of you work harder, you do more, success equals me being stressed is me actually being successful, because here I am with this stress as a badge of honor, right? That I'm working hard, and I was up marking the books until 11 o'clock last night, so I must be like doing this whole life thing well. And of course, it's a load of absolute crap when we truly kind of look at what's going on there. And, I refer to it constantly as it's this waking up. It's this waking up from this sleepwalking mode that so many of us have been conditioned to live in, just taking on that conditioning and the beliefs of all the people around us, which fundamentally are beliefs that have been created from a place of our egos. And our egos kind of are the voices there. I mean, fundamentally, the ego is not bad in any way. It's actually a beautiful thing that's here to protect us and to serve us. But in attempting to protect us and to serve us, it's kind of taking on things that actually keep us small and keep us seeing ourselves as being separate to other people in some way, and kind of keeping us safe in that way of like, don't actually step forward and do anything outside the norm because that might be dangerous. And so we kind of stay in this little like worker bee mentality, which just fundamentally doesn't serve us. I talk about it being the difference between being, oh, hello, I've got a cat joining me.
Yes.
The difference between being in our doing energy.
Yeah.
See you, darling. Being in our doing energy and being in our being energy.
Yes.
And that doing energy, doing and taking action is a really powerful, positive thing, right? I'm never at any point going to say don't take action. The key, though, is we've been conditioned to live in our doing energy for most of the time. And the doing energy isn't actually necessarily about the physical actions we're taking. You can be in your doing energy just sat here technically doing nothing, because even the thinking from the mind is a doing. The thinking is being done. It's a doing. So when we're kind of in that energy of like, I'm just constantly switched on to the thoughts that are coming in, and I'm believing all the thoughts, and I'm getting carried away with all the thoughts, and I'm getting now stressed and anxious because of the thoughts, and and all of that, and then almost like trying to like move away from, or trying to get rid of or run from all of this that's going on. So now I'm going to do loads, and I'm going to do this and this, and I'm not going to stop, because when I stop, then the thoughts are going to come back in, and that's going to be too much. actually both of those things are doing energies.
Mm.
And so the key for me over the last few years has been allowing myself to be in my total being energy. It's why meditation is so powerful, because
Mm.
meditation fundamentally, when we, have really allowed ourselves to lean into it and allowed ourselves to not necessarily release or certainly not delete the thoughts that are in our mind, but simply notice the thoughts that are in our mind without attaching to them and believing them and going down the path of them, then that is us in our being energy. And from that being energy, we are connected to a higher self, ourselves as the conscious awareness that is simply observing it all. And
Mm.
that for me is where all of the ideas absolutely flow. That
Okay.
is where then I'm taking action from alignment
Mm.
rather than taking action from the misalignment that my mind is telling me, and then this, and then we'll do this, and then we've got to sort this, and then we've got to be here, and then right,
Yeah.
taking action from that place. One action taken from alignment, from a being energy, is going to be so much more powerful and potent than 100 actions taken from a place of misalignment and from fundamentally a doing energy.
Right. So would you say, because I have heard from numerous people actually over the past year, people who are, high flyers, people who are earning big amounts of money, they're big players, that underneath they feel that maybe they haven't been, not telling the truth, but they're not living in full alignment with what their truth is. They feel that they have gone off down a route which is, what they should be doing, and they're making loads of money, so all's good, but actually underneath something's jarring with them, and they're feeling like this isn't the truth, this isn't what I'm here to do, and I'm not feeling 100% fired up about this, or I'm feeling stressed because I'm not in alignment. So have you got any advice for the people who are listening to this show, who are maybe in that kind of state of living where they're doing well, they're earning good money, they're outwardly successful, but underneath something's jarring, they're just like, there's something inside them that's telling them they want to go in a different way, and they're like, that isn't the real me. I want to be able to express the whole of me, this truth. What advice would you give to those people? Like, what first step could they take to start getting into more alignment with who they really are?
Right. And I absolutely do have some advice, and I'm going to come to that. But firstly, I just want to I want to take a moment to just really for us to be aware of what you've just said, because you've just said something and pinpointed something that is so powerful and so true. And kind of just actually holding some space for that awareness first around, this is something I see more and more. And I am not here to judge other people and to say oh, I bet that person, they're saying that they've got the £1 million business and all of this, and they're shouting about all their money and this, that, and the other, but they're probably not in alignment. I'm not here to judge that, right, or to assume that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are plenty of people who have got these, extremely successful, and I do the air quotes around successful, because
What
success,
is success, right?
technically,
Yeah.
what even is
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally for me, it's an inside job, it's how I feel. But these kind of outwardly looking successful businesses, often that we measure in terms of money, right? It seems to be an easy metric for measuring those sorts of things. And yet inside themselves, they are just not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
They are, it's kind of that hollow feeling of success, where it's like, hang on, wasn't I meant to feel good when I got here?
Mm-hmm.
I was meant to feel good. I've got all the things that I had on my list. I've ticked them all off, the money and and everyone knows me, and then blah 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 and all of these things, right? But inside I don't feel that. And so fundamentally that comes from a place, and we've already kind of referred to this. If we are not creating our businesses on purpose, from a place of alignment, checking in with ourselves at each step, if we are believing at any point, when I get there, then I'll be happy. When I get there, when I get the next, and then when I have the 20K months, and then the 50K months, and then the 100K months, and then the blah blah, right? When I get there, then I'll be happy, and I'll kind of do anything. I'll get on that hamster wheel and hustle and grind and do everything that I'm, supposed to do, that all the marketing gurus and all of this tell me to do to get to those places. Because when I get there, then I'll be happy. If we are not happy along the journey, we are not happy at the destination.
Yeah.
It's just fundamentally how things work. There is no when I get there. And so we have to reconnect with all the possible ways we can be happy along the journey, and allow the destination to just be the journey itself, right? There is really no destination. I mean, what even is that?
Yeah.
So we can kind of almost see that every step is a new destination.
Yeah.
And so I've got to choose to enjoy every single step. So for those people who are at that place, and again, I see it a lot of the people I work with have created really successful businesses, from the outside, and are going, why do I feel hollow, Jo? Why do I actually why does it all feel like a bit of an anticlimax? Because they haven't enjoyed the journey.
Yeah.
The first thing is firstly to notice that and see if they can release judgment on it. Because the only thing fundamentally the only thing that's ever wrong is that I believe there's something wrong, right? I say that quite a lot. The only thing that's ever wrong is I believe there's something wrong. And it is only ever our judgment of how things are in this moment that truly causes any suffering that we're holding. And so, what I tend to see is that these people who've kind of created these outwardly looking successful businesses, but they don't feel it, they are in absolute deep judgment of themselves for doing that. They're like, oh my God, and I've done it all wrong, and now I feel crap, and what's and this, that, and the other. And so I've obviously, I really should have done it in this way, and and all of that. That's not going to help, right? Actually judging ourselves for where we are right now is not going to help. Fundamentally, wherever we're at right now is exactly where we're meant to be. It's exactly where we're meant to be. Everything has unfolded perfectly in our highest good in every single moment. And so there's a reason why when people find themselves in that place, that they're in that place, they were meant to learn from that. They were meant to get to that place because there's some higher, greater, deeper learning in there. And so from that place, being able to actually just say, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Then what learning can I take from this? What was I meant to learn from this experience? And then from that place, now, rather than focusing on everything they've done in the past story or everything how they're feeling in this moment that doesn't feel good, if we focus on what doesn't feel good and what hasn't worked, technically, if we're focusing on the misalignment that we are experiencing and kind of pulling that thread of, and why is that, and what have I done wrong, and pulling the thread of misalignment, then we're just going to feel more misalignment, really, right? And so fundamentally, from that place, what does feel good, even if it's just 1% out of 100, right? What does feel good? What actually am I being, doing, saying, sharing, feeling? What's like the 1% even of this that feels good? And then focus on the 1, not on the 99. Whatever we focus on expands. And so when we notice that, then you will just naturally, from that place of focusing on it, getting grateful for it, commenting and celebrating on that 1% every time that we see that, and just seeing whether in the 99%, which will now be 90%, which will now be 80%, seeing whether when that comes up, we can just go, okay, yeah, thanks for showing me that. Actually, right now I'm focusing on this. That will just naturally expand and expand and expand until people start to recognize themselves being a certain way or doing certain things that actually are starting to see them enjoying the journey of it more than they focus on this like outcome, externally judged destination.
I absolutely love that. And do you know what? As you were talking through that, I really felt like massively comforted actually, because it's this you almost need sometimes for someone else to give you permission to kind of say, it's like, no, you're not actually focusing on what you want, what you
Right.
want more of. And it's really, it's funny that you say this, because yesterday I did this exercise for myself, because I realized that a certain route that I was going down in my own business, I was feeling a discord. I was definitely feeling like, and this had been going on for several weeks actually, and it kept bubbling up again. Every time I tried to push it down and ignore it, it would bubble up again. And I'd even like I'm one of those people, I'm quite visual, so I always put something up on my wall with numbers that I can cross off and all that kind of thing, because historically that's motivated me. I haven't even wanted to look at it this year. I put it behind a door, you know, that I leave open all the time, so it's always covered. And I was kind of thinking, why is this? Why am I not, why am I feeling this discord? And yesterday I sat down with two pieces of paper. On one piece I wrote a list of everything I don't want in my business, every single thing that I don't want, the kind of situations I don't want to see more of. And on the other page I wrote everything that I do want. And you know what, I was reading through that list of all the things that I don't want, and I really felt kind of like good that I was releasing it onto paper and actually taking note of the things that I don't want. But as I read through the things I do want, it was just like such a joyous, happy feeling. And absolutely, like you say, what you focus on expands. And as I read that through again and then again, I was just like, this is the shizzle that I want, and this is okay, this is doable, this is like, this is absolutely, this can be real life, and that's great, you know, I can see this. And I think it's so lovely that you kind of articulate this so well, because sometimes people just need some freaking permission almost from someone else to say, it's like, whoa, you know, you don't have to carry on doing the stuff you don't want, you don't have
Right. Fundamentally, we can often feel like we need permission to enjoy what we're doing.
yeah.
And I mean, which just when you kind of say it out loud sounds completely crazy, right? But it is how often we're kind of living. And I see that more and more in the world of entrepreneurs and business owners, in the we can end up creating these businesses and then looking at them and going like, what, like I'm not even doing the things that I really enjoyed. And so then when we kind of go, you know, how has that ended up happening, it's because we have created businesses based on what we think other people,
Yeah.
you know, want and need, or what other people will pay for,
Yeah.
rather than fundamentally on what lights us up. And
Yeah.
I get that there are, you know, a lot of the kind of gurus and mentors and coaches out there kind of saying like that's how you create a business, right? You kind of look at what's the need out there, what do they want, who
Yeah.
are those ideal clients, you know, what is it that they're really wanting, what's it worth to them, what are they going to pay for it. And I'm not saying that, you know, all of that stuff is complete rubbish. Like actually leaning into that stuff at a point on your journey can be really useful. But fundamentally, rather than who's my ideal client, who's my ideal me? Who
Yeah.
is my ideal me?
Yeah.
Because if I can, and what's like the money I want to make, and you know, and like really coming from that place, like it sounds like a quite selfish thing. I'm all up for being selfish, to be honest, so that's not a bad thing for me. But fundamentally, it's that like I need to really feel lit up
Yeah.
in my business.
Absolutely.
It has to be coming from a place of it feels good to me. And often, as you just did, writing those things down on paper and just, quite regularly, just doing a check-in with, hang on, have I started to follow, this kind of I should be and I need to be and what other people are telling me, and have I started doing it from that place? The whole purpose of starting your own business is it's your own business. Like literally, we can do whatever the hell we like. We can
Yeah.
literally do whatever the hell we like, and yet we can find ourselves kind of sleepwalking to a place where we go, hang on, I've ended up creating this business that actually isn't me doing what I like, and I'm not actually making the money I want to make, and I'm not, all of it is a choice. And what I absolutely love about my business, and I am not saying that it's perfect, that's the whole point of it, it's absolutely beautifully messy. But
Okay.
what I love about my business is that every single part of it I am doing on purpose, and I've chosen on purpose, because fundamentally the success I'm talking about is an inner success. The only
Yeah.
reason I ever want that money is because there's something in me that believes that that money will allow me to feel more of the feelings I want to feel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The only reason we ever want money is because we think that money is going to lead us to more freedom. Money is going to lead us to more flexibility. Money is going to lead us to more joy, more happiness, more, all of that.
Mm.
Fundamentally, I know that all of those feelings are inside me. I
Yeah.
don't have to get anywhere or get anything to feel those feelings. Fundamentally, I am those vibrations. I, as my pure being, as myself, as higher self conscious awareness, I am those vibrations. They can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so from that place, I have that true inner success and that feeling. And therefore, that is when the money just kind of flows to me without me having to actually do much to create it. Which,
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely love this whole success markers thing, because to me, one way that I know that I'm being successful in my business is that I have a nap every day. Every day I have a great big glorious nap, and it's usually a minimum of half an hour, sometimes it's like 2 hours, and that to me is a massive success marker, because when I was employed, when I was an event manager, the thought of having a nap in the day was like some distant unicorn magical land that just didn't even exist, whereas now I can do, like, crack on with all my work, get it all sorted, and then I'm like, do you know what, I'm sleepy, I'm going to go for a nap. And it's just like, yes, like that to me is as good as getting like some massive chunk of money in or whatever, because it's like, yes, I'm having a nap, and that's something I can enjoy every single day,
right.
and celebrate that nap time.
Right, that's the thing. Fundamentally, why do you want more money? So you can have more naps, right? If
That's
so,
it.
if you can choose to have naps now, then that's how the more money's going to flow.
Yeah,
Like that is
exactly.
the key to it. Like, would you actually, if you had to choose, and you absolutely don't, right? But if you
Yeah,
had to choose between having the nap and having the loads of money, you choose having the nap. And from that place of choosing the nap, because the
yeah,
nap is the thing that makes you feel good and joyful and realigns you with yourself, then
yes,
the money comes. So actually, you didn't even need to choose, because you can
right,
have both.
yeah,
But if we choose solely to like kind of try and like run towards the money, and
yeah,
we don't connect with what we fundamentally are at our core meaning by like the money, or and what it actually means to us and what it can do for us and what we want to connect with. And if we feel like at any point we want that money because we believe we're lacking that money, then it
yeah,
is not going to flow in. Like,
yeah,
you might be able to get it, but there's going to be a hell of a hard hustle and struggle to get it, and you're not going to enjoy it.
yeah,
There has to be the way that we actually create anything is by believing we already have it, which I know sounds kind of a bit crazy, right?
no,
But
it makes
if there's
complete
if
sense.
there's
Yeah,
a belief that I don't have this thing, and therefore I want to have this thing because I think I don't have it, and I think that I'm not enough without this thing, then we are trying to create something from that lack and scarcity energy. And from lack and scarcity, we're just going to create, even more lack and scarcity. It's why goals for people and setting goals and having goals often is a really kind of hot topic and debated in so many
yeah,
different ways, and so many people really struggle with that, is because most of the time, unfortunately, people are choosing and creating goals from a lack mentality rather than from an abundance mindset. They're choosing and creating goals because they're saying, basically, and they're putting it in all the nice language and saying, no, it's that I want it, right? I want it and I choose it rather than I need it. They recognize actually
yeah,
putting it in that language is useful, but it's still fundamentally coming from a need energy, from this, like,
right,
there's something wrong if I don't have it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
from that energy, it's going to just create more of the lack rather than the actual thing. There
right,
has to be a level of, again, as I said, there has to be, before any goal can truly be created, manifested, whatever word you want to use, there has to be that level of enoughness already. There
mm,
has to be that level of, I actually believe I already have it, I already am it,
yeah,
and then we can truly call it in, attract it in, create it on purpose
yeah,
from that place. Otherwise, it's just gonna always feel like this kind of hollow thing. Why do I never seem to be able to create actually create my goals, or manifest, these things that everyone else seems to, and their dog seems to be able to manifest, and why aren't
yeah,
I doing it well, right?
yeah,
Or why is it that when I do manage to get there, I feel crap when I'm there? And
Yeah.
it is simply because the goal has been chosen from a place of mind and the thinking brain
Yeah.
rather than from a place of soul and connectedness and some more kind of like like guided kind of call energy.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And is there any one specific, this is probably quite a hard question actually, is there one specific tip or strategy that you could share if somebody is going down a route that they're, maybe they're kind of conditioned to the goal setting, or they're living in a feeling of discord with who their true self is? Is there one thing that you could share that the listeners could do as a practice or as a habit, maybe to start building on, to get them into the zone where they're actually making progress in the right direction towards what their aligned self really wants them to be doing? Is there something that, like, you always use the terminology of waking up, and I love that. Is there something that you could share with the listeners that could get them into that zone quickly as a tool to use,
Right.
maybe?
The one thing that's coming straight to mind is to, and not necessarily forever, excuse me, but for a period of time, so that they can come back to a place of realignment. And really it is realignment, because our true nature is that of alignment, is that of connection, is of love, is of joy. So to come back to that realignment is, for a period of time, release any need for what I refer to as destination goals.
Yeah.
Those kind of goals that come from the 10K months, or the goals that come more from a place of the ego kind of saying, really, I should be doing this, or I need this,
Yeah.
right? And so then there's that part that goes, no, but hang on, Jo, I do want that as well. I want that as well. And I get that and I hear that. But just for a while, release this destination goal kind of thing and lean into what I refer to as journey intentions.
Okay.
Lean into, what do I actually want to feel like in this moment, in that moment? What this potential destination goal that I had about 10K months, like, why? What was the reason behind it? Why did I want to have the 10K month? Was it because this, that, and the other? We might even notice in that, we might even start to notice why actually it's come more from a place of kind of ego and this attachment and ego, when we notice that some of the answers that come up, why do I want the 10K months? For some sort of validation, like actually because I want some
Yeah.
sort of validation or significance or importance or whatever. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Simply notice that, don't have to go into judgment around it. Oh, that's just okay right now, that's how you're kind of thinking, mind, I see you. Yeah, you're kind of wanting that validation. Okay, I get it, that's all right.
Yeah.
But actually, when we can kind of move past that level of it,
Yeah.
we see that really, what is it? Is it freedom? Is it you're looking for more flexibility? Is it more joy? Is it more, whatever else it is?
Yeah.
And actually create those as your kind of more your goals,
Yeah.
or as I will call it, journey intentions.
Yeah.
Make those your intentions. Create some sort of mantra around it, something you can kind of repeat to yourself, write down every day. I allow myself to lean into ease and flow, or freedom, or flexibility, or I whatever else it is. And then purposefully choose to notice, to look for, to find, and to celebrate those things in your life every single day.
Yeah.
Because from that place, what ends up happening is, often those what were then the destination goals almost kind of beautifully creep back in, but they creep back in now from a place of enoughness or above, enoughness up to abundance,
Yeah.
rather than just being in that energy of lack and scarcity and below enoughness. Because we already then our mind, body, soul, all of us recognizes, I already have these things, I already am these things, and therefore it will allow us to attract in the like for like energy of those things. And if that's meant to be the 10K 20K months, or the whatever else it is that's more of a kind of tangible, practical goal that we've created from that thinking mind, if they're meant for us, they'll just flow in to meet that energy. They absolutely will. And you'll find yourself being guided and called to take actions from this place of alignment. Say it was ease and flow. From this place of alignment and ease and flow, you'll be just guided to take actions that then suddenly are creating the money that you've said you wanted, or whatever else it is. We try, and a lot of the time, particularly in the world of things like manifestation, law of attraction, people will say, and mentors and guides and gurus will say, oh, you've got to be really specific. The universe loves it when you're specific. Yes, that's true. However, where people can fall down there is that if we're being specific from our thinking brain, our mind, our ego, then we are actually going to create more lack and scarcity.
Right.
If we're being specific from our more of a soul connection and a really wide awake mind, and even a wide awake on purpose ego, then great. But that's not actually where most of us are. Most of us are at a place where we actually are much better to widen and broaden the focus of what we're wanting, to make it into the feeling vibrations that we're wanting, and then the specifics naturally start to come into us and are shown to us. That's actually a much easier way of doing it than trying to go straight to the specifics, potentially from a place of ego rather than from our higher selves.
I love this. That makes so much sense to me, because I think for me, just kind of putting that, what you've just been teaching there, across into an example in my own life. We live in a lovely house, really, really lovely. And I've always said, if we could pick it up and just put it on a cliff somewhere, it would be perfection. But actually, when I'm thinking about the feeling that I'd want to have from having that house on a cliff, it's me being outside in the garden on some nice garden furniture and just enjoying being outside. And that feeling I can actually get here, you know? And it's like, yeah, I suppose then taking aligned action from that, it's so much nicer, isn't it? It's like the journey can be so much more pleasant, instead of like a kind of a hammer to hit yourself with. You're kind of actually enjoying the journey, and that's what it's all about.
And that's the key part, is that when, whatever you want to call it, the universe, higher self, whatever it is, your thing, God, whatever, whomever, when it's been recognized from that kind of wonderful source energy that we are, as we actually are, that lovely source energy, when it's been recognized from that lovely source energy in that higher, deeper place, that we already have that thing, that is when it manifests, right? And we can do that. That's the beauty that we have as human beings. We have access to these minds. And our mind, as well as often feeling like when we kind of don't recognize the power of it and we're just in that sleepwalking mode with the mind can actually feel like a really difficult place to be. It's the place where all the thoughts are just coming, and if we haven't recognized that we are something more than our thoughts, and we just believe we are those thoughts, then that can be a really kind of challenging thing. When we truly start to understand the power of the mind and start to utilize the power of the mind on purpose, we recognize that we, in our minds, and really in what we'd refer to as our subconscious or unconscious minds, we do not know the difference between what is happening in apparent external reality and what's actually happening. When we imagine something and visualize something in our minds, then our mind believes that is actually happening. It stores that and responds to that as it's actually happening. In this moment, I could get into the energy of, believing I've just made my, first million, and I could absolutely visualize that. I could see myself where I am when that, the news comes through and how I'm feeling and all of that. And my mind and body will respond to that in exactly the same way, maybe not as kind of intensely, but I absolutely can turn up the intensity. But it will respond to that in exactly the same way as it would respond to it as if it was happening in this physical reality. And so the more we can get our mind experiencing that and feeling that, it works on so many different levels. It allows us, as you've just said, it allows us to be able to enjoy that experience in this now moment and choose to enjoy that experience on purpose, which is a beautiful thing. And what it also does is it helps our minds to start to actually create that from a more practical, tangible place, because our subconscious or unconscious mind absolutely craves familiarity and certainty. It is going to push us away from anything that doesn't feel familiar and certain to us. And therefore, if we've got this kind of new thing that we want and we're kind of trying to work towards it, but the mind's like, I've never experienced that, I don't know what that's like, so that must be dangerous for us, it's
Yeah.
going to push away and push away and push away. So if we can choose on purpose to visualize, to imagine that thing and that experience and do that even just a few times,
Yeah.
or maybe even do it regularly if you really want to start creating results,
Yeah.
then suddenly the mind goes, oh, we're familiar with this, we've already done this,
Yeah.
so
Easy.
there's absolutely no reason to like stop this from manifesting in physical actual reality.
Yeah.
And from so many levels, it's such a powerful thing.
I love that, Jo. That's literally just given me like a shiver, because it is so, so powerful. And what I love is that this can apply to anybody at any stage in their journey. So for the people who are, maybe working for other people still, and they long to work for themselves, they can start picturing that, because at first it is terrifying, isn't it? The
Right.
thought of leaving a predictable salary every month to going out into the unknown and working for yourself is terrifying. But actually, if you make yourself comfortable with it over time, like you say, it will just become like, well, that's normal. Of course, it's what I need to be doing. And I love that. And the same for people who are maybe opposite ends of the spectrum, who are really far on in their businesses but are maybe feeling a call to follow a different path. That's scary, isn't it? Because we're thinking, but this is predictable. I know that what I'm doing sells, and I'm going to take a jump to do something new. But by thinking these kind of situations over and over again, and like you say, adding feeling, adding intensity, by doing that, anyone can change the path that they're on. And that's really, I find that really comforting, like a really comforting, encouraging, positive thought. So hopefully anyone who's listening to this, who's kind of in those kind of situations that they don't want to be in, I think it's that message, isn't it, that anyone can make that change at any time.
Right. Everything has to be created in energy before it is actualized in a physical form.
Mm.
Everything starts from that place.
Yeah.
And we are constantly doing that. All of us are absolute
Yeah.
masters at manifestation. Whether you refer to it as that in that way as or not,
Always
we are
working.
all manifesting all the time. All manifesting means is that something that was out of my conscious awareness is now in my conscious awareness, right? I like see it now. And that is happening with every single thing that is coming into our experience. It's kind of manifested in that way. But what tends to happen until we start to dig a bit deeper and understand how these things work, we're just going through this like sleepwalking mode, and we're manifesting mainly from our ego, we're manifesting from the thinking mind, and we're not doing anything deliberately, we're not doing anything kind of on purpose, and we're also not necessarily really consciously connecting with our soul self, our higher self, this kind of wiser, truer part of us that actually has, can beautifully take the reins for us. Actually, that is there to be able to completely take the reins away from us needing to do anything or shoulding to do anything from the mind and body self, which is a really beautiful thing. And so if we can, from this place of awareness, waking up to this awareness that we are the deliberate creators of our own experience, we can choose on purpose to create everything we've ever wanted. And that starts in an energetic form. It starts by us thinking and feeling about it in mind and body, but thinking and feeling about it on purpose rather than just believing all the natural thoughts that are popping in that aren't necessarily serving us. When we can think and feel about it, when we can get into the energy vibration of it in our bodies, because really, rather than the thoughts themselves, it's never actually the thoughts that are manifesting, it's the feeling vibrations that create the manifestation, because the like vibration attracts in another like vibration. And so it's our job then to deliberately notice the feeling vibrations that are in our bodies, really start to tune into them, which is a lot of the work I do with people. That they think that they're tuned into their body to some degree and the emotions and the feelings that are there, but actually when we start really working together, they start to realize, oh my god, I really wasn't actually tuned in to these really specific energies in my body. And it's the energies in the body and the feeling vibrations that are going to call in whatever it is that we're wanting. And so coming from a place of doing that on purpose then just means that what I love is that it kind of, people get to a point where they'll say to me, Jo, I had this thing where I wanted this actual practical, tangible like thing outside of me, like the new house, right? Or the money or whatever. And they're like, they come to a place where they're like, and actually, I'm here, I've got it. And they say that, and then they're like, but I haven't physically got it. The only tiny detail is that it hasn't physically manifested yet, but I already have it. They literally are in the energy of it so much that it actually matters not to them whether the thing physically materializes or not. And it's from that place that it will physically materialize if it's meant to.
Yes.
Because they no longer need it. They no longer make having it or not having it mean anything about who they are and about their success or lack of success or whatever else it is. And so, whether that's from, people who've been in business for a long time, who haven't necessarily lent into being as deliberate as possible as they can about the thinking and the feeling energy and what that calls in, or whether it's for people who, as of yet are only just have a seedling of inspiration or idea, or even just like hate what they're doing and so want to be able to create something else, then we all have access to these beautiful minds and bodies, and we absolutely all have access to that higher self, that soul self, that we can lean into and allow ourselves to be guided by that energy.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for describing it so clearly for us. So good to listen to. And so tell me, you clearly do work with clients one-to-one, you do group coaching. I know, talking of recurring revenue, you've got your own membership, haven't you? So for people listening to the show, how can they reach out to you? How can they if someone wanting to work with you more closely, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. Do you know, this is always a really interesting question for me, and I love it because, as you probably know, right, from everything that we've been talking about, this is how I work in my business. And so for me, what flows through in the moment is what flows through in the moment. And that means, and I know you kind of change and tweak your offers and the ways people work with you in lots of different ways, right? Kind of really feeling into what feels good for you. That's exactly what I do. And so there are lots of different ways you can work with me, and they change depending on what's going on and how I'm feeling. I never have that need to say, this is just how you work with me and it's always going to be like that, because I go with the flow. The one thing I do love that I have that has just been an absolute joy, and does seem to continue to be a joy and a joy and a joy, is my membership. So my membership for kind of newer coaches, people starting and building their coaching businesses, coaching club. And as you say, as a membership, I started it through working with you, right? And us like literally in the infancy of it, of that beautiful idea. And that continues to be something that's just so aligned and I love, and I will continue to do it as long as I continue to love it. I'm not saying that's going to be forever, and I'm okay with that, but right now I'm loving it, and I continue to do that, supporting newer and kind of coaches just in their first few years of business. And then also working with me one-to-one really is how that real deep alignment work happens. And so the best way to find me to chat about that is simply to find me on Facebook, Jo Naughton. I am just a normal person there on Facebook, with a profile that you can connect and be friends with me and chat to me and drop me a message, but also on my website if you want kind of any more information. So yeah, Jo Naughton. Naughton spelt in the way I always have to spell it out, so Naughton. Naughty, I always think.
Perfect. That's so great. Thank you so much for coming along and sharing your wisdom with us today. I think for me personally, that I just find it such a comforting, energizing message. And I think it's, for me personally, I want to be able to make more of a practice and more of a habit of reminding myself to check in with those feelings on a day-to-day basis. So hopefully that's something that the listeners will be able to take on board as well. So yeah, big thank you for coming along. And thank you everyone for listening or watching along with the episode today. And I will be back next week, next Monday, with a brand new episode of the Recurring Revenue Rocks show.